Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 51 of the UTR Pro Tennis Tour podcast. My name is James Mackay. I'm the Director of Player and Collegiate Development at UTR Sports. As you know, the UTR Pro Tennis Tour is the go-to tour for rising tennis professionals across the world. Guaranteed matches, guaranteed prize money. Next on the show, head men's tennis coach at Grand Canyon University, Ross Wilson. Welcome on.
Thanks, James. Thanks for having me, man.
Well, let me just delve right in here. Okay, I'm going to get right to the chase. Ross Wilson was the head coach at Iowa. He had a top 20, maybe even top 16 program at Iowa. And one day he was told that his program was no longer continuing. From there, he's gone on to other schools like Notre Dame, and now he is the head coach at Grand Canyon, where I think a lot of people can agree with me is already starting to get on the national stage here and becoming a top 50 program. So, Ross, if you can just briefly tell us what happened there at Iowa, if you can share as much as you can, how did that actually feel for you, and how did it feel for your players?
Sure. I mean, honestly, when we were going through the pandemic, we had some conversations with administration, and they said there was a possibility of cutting sports. And that was when we stopped in the spring and then throughout the summer. And then when football was going to be played, everything was going to be okay. They said, hey, we're not cutting sports. Nothing's going to happen. When there wasn't enough COVID testing initially for football and they were going to cancel the season, that's when they made the decision to cut men's tennis, men's and women's swimming, and men's gymnastics. And so one Friday morning at about 6 a.m., I get a text from Gary Barta, the AD at Iowa, saying, hey, we have a meeting at 10 a.m. You need to be there, which, never happens with somebody like Gary, who's, been in charge of the college football playoff, one of the big ADs in the country. He's got bigger fish to fry than the tennis coach. So when you get that text, it's not good. Immediately followed up from a call from the head swimming coach. We talked about what could happen, possibilities, for the last 5 months, and went to the office, kind of figured what was coming, at 10 a.m. And honestly, I packed up my office. I was like, it's over, man. I'm pretty sure this is what's going to happen. And so 10 a.m., go to a meeting with Gary. He tells us the program's been cut for financial reasons. Right after that, all those 3 sports teams that were getting cut, tennis, swimming, men's, women's swimming, and men's gymnastics, all met in the practice gym, and Gary gave them about an 8-minute spiel about why they were getting cut, and then he said goodbye. Never saw him again. And then the coaches were left to pick up the pieces. And that meeting right after that was really, really hard, just to see the guys' faces and where that program had come. I mean, when I took it over, it was 1-22, 177 in the country. And, that particular season, the season before COVID, we were the very last team out of the NCAA tournament. We'd beaten 11 teams that were in the tournament that year. We beat the very last team that got in, Utah. So not make it was pretty disappointing, but also being like, hey, our 5-year plan is working. And in year 4, it was working. And then year 5 was the COVID year. So, that was tough, just meeting with the guys and seeing their faces, knowing the season that we had when we finished 20 in the country, and then having everybody back, plus Alex Petrov, who, ended up playing number 1 at Illinois, was a kid that was signed to come to Iowa to play that year. So, I mean, our roster was really good. I mean, we were built. I mean, we were going to be a top 30 program for the next 4 years. And to have it all kind of come crashing to the end, that was tough. And then knowing what I know now, to be honest, and I would give this advice, teach their own, but I would give this advice to any coach that has their program cut. It's don't even go through the season. Like having to go to the courts every day, having to see the people that got rid of your sport, and having to, we weren't the same team. Our team was built on, we were together. We came to Iowa for a reason. We wanted to be top 20. We wanted to build the program to NCAA tournament team. We wanted to play hard for Iowa and each other. And we were going to fight, scrap, and claw for every single point, and we didn't have it. We just didn't have it that year. We had guys, hey, we got to find a school to go to for next year. I was helping my assistant find assistant coaching positions. Luckily, we had enough really good players and great assistant coaches. They were easily able to find other places to go. But yeah, that was a really tough year. So I mean, if you have an opportunity to not have to go through that, I mean, I would give any coach, because I know there's programs are being cut right now. Just save your time and let your guys red shirt, and make it a little easier on yourself.
So let's talk about that. You said programs are being cut right now. 51 tennis programs were cut last year, right? College athletics is changing. You are a guy that actually experienced this, where you were told, sorry, it's over, right? You're married, you have kids. Like, what do we do here, right? Is that number going to go to 151 next year? Is it on the leadership of the sport to grow it? Do we need to get it on TV? Do we need to put revenue into the programs? What are we going to do here?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned some really, really good ideas. I mean, tennis, let's be honest, like, we love tennis. Tennis is a niche sport. Our best athletes in America are playing football, they're playing basketball, they're playing baseball, soccer, but we can make this sport a lot more fun. We can make this sport get out there in the public more. I mean, people don't want to hear this, but betting is a big deal, out here in the sports landscape. And since it's been introduced, legalized in America in the past 8 to 10 years, and if there's an opportunity to get revenue and to get the sport out there, doing it that way, I think you really have to seriously look into that opportunity. And on top of that, I think too, our sport's just too boring. Like, we're making rules where you can't say on it between a second serve. We're worried about hurting people's feelings, and like, we got to be tougher. Coaches got to be tougher. We got to be tougher as players. I mean, I went to the GCU basketball game, and we're playing New Mexico, and the guy's about to shoot a free throw in the fourth quarter, or second half, with 2 minutes left, and people are screaming and yelling. He shoots the free throw, misses. He goes back, he plays on defense. He was good. He didn't get his feelings hurt. He kept playing. So I think we got to make the sport more fun for the fans. I think we got to be tougher as coaches to make our players play through hard things. And, the cutting the sport thing, college is, like you said, the landscape of college tennis is changing every day. I don't think it's a sport they're looking to cut, but if I were running the ITA, I mean, we got to show ADs that this sport is affordable. There's no reason to cut this sport because it costs such little money to play, and it gives men 4.5 opportunities, or whatever we're at, 10. But like, we can improve this sport by, why do we not have more tournaments as a team? We have the ITA kickoff. That's great. Well, if we really want to promote teams playing against their peers ranking wise, how come we don't have another tournament like that, where we do, the top 8 teams get to go to one place, and the number 1 team in the country hosts, an 8-team tournament. And then, so on. We go number 9, they host 9 through 16, and, 17 to 24, and so on down the line, all the way to the top 100 or 64, whatever. I mean, then you're getting a handful of dual matches. You're traveling to one spot. You're getting great competition. And then if you put these tournaments into certain venues across the country, I know they're doing it out in Palm Springs, and you start building events. I mean, the one thing golf has on us is, man, they have real college events. I mean, they're covering the NCAA shot by shot person. I mean, it's 3-4 days, and it's on the Golf Channel. It looks great. I think tennis is just stuck. Nobody wants to give up home matches. They're stuck in the old ways, and I think you've got to kind of adapt and make the sport more competitive, get it out there in locations that are going to be great for viewership and for people to come watch.
Well, I'll just say, before we move on and talk about you, Grand Canyon, and what you've done there, I am repping right here an Iowa hat. Beside that is Drake. I just wanted to put that in there. I played at Drake, and Drake and Iowa had great rivalries. But the University of Iowa is a special place, right? People hear Iowa and they go, oh, it's Iowa, it's boring. Actually, Iowa City and that fan base and that town is unreal. So to see tennis get cut there on the men's side is quite sad. You've got facilities, you've got the fan base, you've got the people. Wife's a diehard fan, family's a diehard fan, and it's just kind of sad. By the way, so I put this video up recently, and it was at Baylor. I got it from a good friend, Robin Goodman, and the video was it was a point between Oklahoma and Baylor about 10 years ago, right? And the Big 12 installed a rule where you could cheer at any time. And what I realized, I just put the video up for fun on my Instagram channel, but what I realized is about 10,000 people liked this and about 1,000 people commented on it. And I was like, what is going on here? Like, people are going crazy on this video. But what it made me realize is how many people actually love college tennis, how many people actually care about it, right? And they were putting their opinions on there saying you can cheer anytime. This is, yeah, it's so good, blah, blah, blah. Other people were against it, which is fine. But it created this buzz and it made me realize there's a lot of people that care. Also, I'll say to Ross's point, every single college tennis program needs to use UTR on their program, right? Just put it in the middle of your program and run. And there's three ways. You can put money to your players, you can put money to your coaches, like income, and you can put money towards your program. Any way you want. Use the system, use us, let us help you. Ross, you rebuilt a program at Iowa. You rebuilt a program now at GCU, Grand Canyon, where you are now contending, I would say, for the Mountain West.
Sure.
What's your philosophy? What do you believe in and how are you doing this?
I think the main thing is, you win with people. You have to get the right people in your system. I think there's three things that we look for in recruiting. Number one, we're not looking for the guys that are finished products. We're not going to get those guys, but we want to find the guys that are athletes, that have size, they've got some weapons in their game. They're able to come in and maybe finish at the net, but their forehand racket head speed isn't there. But we know through reps and establishing good footwork and things and good court positioning, that can get better. So we're looking with guys that have a lot of upside. They have the tools in their game. We're just trying to help them put it together. And then number two, academics is a piece of this. We want guys that are going to go to school. They're going to go to meetings, going to show up on time. They're going to be mature. We're not going to have to deal with any of that stuff. And then number three, do you want to be part of a team? This is going to be such a unique experience besides what you've done on the ITF tour or pro tour. You're going to train with your teammates every day. You're going to eat with them. You're going to live with them. You're going to compete with them. You're going to get to know these guys really well, and you're going to play with guys every day that are better than you, that are the same as you, and maybe you're a little better than them. So you're going to have great people to practice with. You're just going to be supported really well. And you as a player, you better come to work hard every single day. You better listen to coaching. You better be here for your teammates, and you better be wanting to win, be motivated to win, and pursuing this all year round, 12 months a year. If you're doing that, that's the kind of player that we're looking for. We don't want the guys that have already peaked. We're trying to get the guys like you and, some of your teammates at Drake, man. Like, you guys came in and you just needed a great environment and a really good coach and some balls, some nets, some tennis courts and some opponents on the schedule. And if you did that for 4 years, you're going to be a heck of a player.
Got it. So Grand Canyon, right? It's in Phoenix. Tell us about the school. Is it online? Is it in person? How does it work? International, US? Tell us about the school.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny when I got a call from Anthony Martinez, our AD, I didn't know much about GCU at all. Being from the Midwest, you probably don't hear about this maybe in the NCAA basketball tournament because they're starting to make a name in basketball. And so, the biggest takeaway I took away is, we've only been Division I for 8 years. They had won something like 72 conference championships over all the sports here in that 8 years. They want to win. They were investing heavily in tennis. We were going to 6.5 scholarships. The budget was just as good as Iowa. There was facility upgrades all the way. We have 6 courts. We're going to go to 10 courts really soon. And the goal is to win. The goal is to win. And they had a great model too. Bigger picture, people are talking about, there's not going to be as many people going to college because the population is not going to be as big in 10 to 20 years. College is not affordable right now, and the prices and all that stuff. Well, GCU all in is $30,000 a year to go to school, to live. So it's very, very affordable. A lot of kids, just regular students, are getting scholarships, and so, we have a special opportunity, I think, here where we have a really affordable school. You can go online. There's 95,000 students online, 25,000 are on campus. Their goal is to be 50,000 over the next 10 years. But we also want students from all across the world, all throughout the United States. So they want people to come to school here. So they're going to make every opportunity to be able to get people acceptance into school. And we can do a lot of great things with our scholarship, the affordability, the wanting to win by the administration. I think from being all the places I've been, Iowa, Notre Dame, University of San Diego, Kenyon College, it's never been higher than here. So it's never been talked about more than by the administrators than this place. So I think we're up and coming in all the sports here, not just tennis. And I think we're going to do some really special things here in the whole department over the next 5 to 10 years.
I'm calling it right now. Grand Canyon are going to be top 25 in 1, maybe 2 years, based on what I just heard there with support, administration, facilities, Phoenix, weather, scheduling. I'm throwing it out there. I'm making the prediction, and I know Ross will agree with me. Recently, Ross, middle of your spring season, you had a gap, and I'll tell you what's great, really good coaching here is Ross took his whole team to the Newport PTT. Some guys got in, some guys did not. I actually don't know exactly how it finished up there, but why did you do that, and what was your takeaway from taking your guys to that event?
Sure. No, we were actually supposed to play Wichita State in Palm Springs during that weekend, and that was our spring break. Wichita was coming out here in January and just said, can we play in January when we're in Phoenix? I said, sure. So we had an open weekend. You know, we're trying to send some feelers out to teams with dual matches and things like that, even looking at the schedule, pro events, UTRs, all that stuff. And it just so happened the PTT was in Newport during that week. So we played Portland State in a doubleheader on a Saturday. The 4 guys that got into the tournament initially jumped in the van with our assistant, drove to Newport on Sunday, practiced, and started the tournament. I stuck around. It was also on our spring break week too, so it worked out perfectly. And then I stayed back with a couple guys for a few days, and then we all drove to Newport, hung out, practiced. One of the former coaches at GCU is actually the director of tennis at the Rec Club of Irvine. So, you know, he let us practice at his club. And then one of our guys ended up getting in as an alternate to the UTR event. So it was awesome for our team. I think every one of our starters, except for one, was in the tournament getting matches on a week that we wouldn't have gotten any matches. And we got some really good ones. And I think too, you know, mixing that in with the college season, you know, in college tennis, you've got to be great on Friday and Sunday when you play. That's usually when the conference matches are. When you're playing PTTs, when you're playing pro events, you got to be great every day. You know, you gotta be able to show up every day and have the motivation to win, physically be willing to do what it takes to win, mentally apply yourself. And you've got to do that day in and day out, you know? So it's a different type of competition. It is tennis, but it is definitely different than a dual match. I mean, I like to say the dual match is like a prize fight. You know, we're going for 2.5, 3 hours. We're going to give you everything we got. Then we get a day off. We're going to do it again. And then we got a day off, and then we got 3 days of practice. You got time to recover, you know? And so playing the tournaments day in and day out gives you good exposure to what it really takes if you're wanting to be a pro tennis player, what it's going to be like on the tour. And with the UTRs, it's guaranteed 6 matches. So you're going to feel physically and mentally what it's like to get to the finals of a future 15 or 25K.
Well, appreciate that feedback there. I'm glad that we could help out some of your players getting into that draw. One thing I noticed about your team, Ross, is I believe, could be wrong, but I believe every single guy from an age standpoint can return and play for you next year. Question is, how good realistically do you think that you can be at Grand Canyon? Right? Well, we can say national champion, right? We can say top 10, we can say top 20. I mean, based on what you have and the support that you have, which is great to hear, by the way, how good do you actually think you can be nationally and in the conference?
Sure. It's a great question. You know, I think what's really important after doing this at Iowa is, you know, it's baby steps, right? It's making like short-term goals first. And, you know, I've actually been asked this question 3 times this week. And what did you expect the very first year? And I was like, you know, this first year, I didn't know the players, didn't know the school that well. I didn't even live in Phoenix until August. So, you know, I'm buying a house, I'm moving my family, doing all these things. But my number one goal, because I had done this before, was we need to be one of the most competitive teams in the country. We need to show up to practice every day. We need to compete against each other, not just hit balls. We need to play to win. We need to understand our game and what we do on the court that makes us good, that we can win with, what is our weakness, how to get out of those rallies and those things. And then we need to play against each other every day and understand how important it is to compete point to point, shot to shot, set to set, match to match. And so I think we've done an awesome job with that. I mean, I don't know if there's any teams in the country over the last 2 matches we've played. I mean, we played 105-degree heat for 4.5 hours, both matches. And, we've played 3 matches in 3 days. And our guys came out and we're good. I mean, we're tired, but man, we're good. And that just shows the mental toughness that we have, that shows physical toughness that we have. And we're a really competitive team. And so I think if you're not one of the most competitive teams out there, you're not going to have a chance to reach your goals. I think this year, realistically, we wanted to be top half of the conference, top 4. And then, as the season's gone on, I think we've kind of realized, man, like we beat Boise State, who won the regular season, the Mountain West last year. We beat New Mexico, who won the conference tournament last year. I think UNLV is really good. Air Force, we have a really good conference. Maybe people don't really know about it because some of those teams don't get to travel and play, but we have a really competitive conference. I think we've kind of proven to ourselves that we're as good as anybody. And, our goal is to be the best team at the very end, to be the team standing after the last ball's hit, with us trying to hold the trophy.
Last question for you, Ross. I predict a great season going not only this year, but going forward. Put your college tennis hat on, right? What's your advice to other coaches? What's your advice to leadership of the sport? What do you hope for college tennis going forward?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I know I've obviously watched the show, and you talk about rule changes. I think a couple would be great. One, can we just call a timeout? One timeout during the match. I mean, there's sometimes stuff's not going well for your team. There's momentum that shifts and all this stuff. Like, can we get a 90-second timeout where I call it? I bring my guys together. I don't know, whatever the coach wants to say, whatever they want to do, and then we keep playing. I think that would be good. I also think, I think there should be one substitution allowed, and it has to be after the first set because, here's a couple of scenarios. I mean, number one, maybe it starts raining and you go finish the match indoors and you got a guy that you would play indoors. Okay, you can make a change. Or number two, you've got a guy, 2 or 3 guys that are trying to play 6 singles, and you're like, let me get a look at this guy. And he goes out and he just sucks in the first set. And you're like, oh man, get this guy out of here. We got to give me the other guy, And so I think that would be a really good rule change. And then I think this is a really big one, and it is not going to be popular with the top teams. But I mean, with this whole NCAA being in the fall, that process takes so long. I mean, at Notre Dame, we were going to ITA Masters, ITA Regionals, All Americans. We were going everywhere with Sebi Dominka, and it was tough, man. It was tough. The travel was tough. No one paid me more money to do more traveling. And so I would just get rid of the individual tournament. I would just get rid of that thing. And I would add 16 more teams to the team tournament because in the first 2 rounds, I don't think the NCAA pays for the teams to travel anyways. And I think there's a lot of really, really good coaches in college tennis. There are a lot of really good programs. And if you don't want your program to get cut, build success, make sure your AD knows you're in the NCAA tournament, because honestly, they don't know about All Americans. They don't know about national champions. They don't know if you got an individual or a doubles team. They're not tuned into that. And even if you try to make them tune into it, they're not going to be invested because they think like football and basketball and baseball and softball and soccer and all the other team sports. And then team sport, it is make the NCAA tournament. Did you finish top 25? All those things. And that's how they're wired because that's how everybody's wired. So let's add more teams in the tournament. Let the top 16 host. They get a bye in the first round. And then it's just one extra match, guys. And so if that is a change that, I just think that's a no-brainer. I mean, how many guys, and this is a personal story. I mean, when I was playing at Ohio State, we were the number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament in doubles. And, we're playing to go to the US Open. And that was the only national championship my partner Scott Green and I hadn't won in our whole career. And we lose my senior year to Texas 4-3 in an absolute battle in the quarterfinals of the NCAAs. I mean, we were in our hotel room with the lights off for the whole next day. I mean, it was hard for us. We were the number one seed. That was hard for us to even get up and play. And we didn't have the same juice that we had for the team. We didn't have it. And so I think we have such a unique opportunity in tennis to play as a team, and more people enjoy that. That is something that would be an awesome change for us to make.
How's that, people? I really hope, well, actually, the people that stayed till the end of this episode to listen to that is good stuff. Also, by the way, don't forget. Go ahead.
I wanted to add one more thing. I thought I was gonna get a little spot at the ITA coaches convention, but they had some other. They wanted me to do something different. But I think something that's never talked about, and every single young coach. When I went to the ITA convention, I go every year. It's a great place to meet coaches, to learn new things, but to just make contacts in general. Have a couple beers, have dinner, hang out, get to meet other coaches. But Lee Nickel at Buffalo is probably the best presentation I've seen there, where I was a young coach. He was explaining his journey up, and it was like Fresno State, I think, to Alabama, there was some other place. He ends up at Buffalo. And then, he explained how he made Buffalo great for him as a coach and for his family. And so I think a lot of young coaches, you get in this thing, man, and the sky's the limit, right? Like, I want to be the head coach at USC, and that's great. But then your life takes place, and then you start to realize what the landscape is. And to be completely honest, you better be the assistant at one of those top schools that can win if you want to be at one of those places. Like, I think a great example is Jake Jacoby. Like, he is at Mississippi State, great program. Matt Roberts, awesome coach. Jake learns under him for 7 years, and now he's the head coach at Ole Miss, doing well. I think that's the pathway right now for young coaches to be in the SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12. Okay, but there's only so many of those jobs, right? How many 40-some, 50-some jobs, but there's still 200 plus other tennis programs. And so from my experience, like, I was at Iowa, I was 29 years old, as the head coach at Iowa. I thought, man, I made it. Like, I'm going to make this program. I'm going to stay here for 30 years. Things happen. I'm at GCU. Couldn't be happier. This is a place that fits my family. I live in a great city. I have a great university that wants to win. They're supporting the program financially, and I can build my tennis camp and my tennis business here in Phoenix. I can get great competition. So there's other opportunities out there for young coaches to know, like, it's not the end all be all. If you don't make it to the Big 10, Big 12, SEC, ACC, there's some other great places, but it's what you make it. And then the last thing is we're not making millions of dollars. All right. So when you move all across the country, like I moved from Kenyon College to California, assistant at University of San Diego, sold all my stuff, got in my Ford Focus, drove to San Diego, all good. I'm a single guy. It's no big deal. I go from San Diego to Iowa. Again, I was in New York City when I got the job in Iowa. So I flew from New York City, worked there all summer, back to San Diego, packed up my stuff, flew to Iowa, was at practice that Monday. Still a single guy, all good. I'm at Iowa. I'm married. We're about to, thinking about having a kid. The program gets cut. Well, you've bought a house at this point. You have a, 2,000, 3,000 square foot house. You want to move from Iowa City to South Bend. That's going to cost you $12,000, and the university is not going to pay that for you. They're going to say, hey, we'll include moving costs, but guess what? You get taxed 30% on that. So like on your first year salary, you may be making more money, but you're also going to be making less because they're going to take the taxes that they charged you on the moving expenses. And then you're going to move from Notre Dame to Arizona. And now you got a baby, kid, a house, all this stuff. It's going to cost you $22,000 to move. And you're going to pay taxes on that. So like, these are real things that I think it's funny that we don't talk about in our sport, that young coaches and any coaches that have maybe never made a move will find out. But you should be prepared for that because that's real life. Oh, let me mention another thing, and you've had this experience too, is, my wife had a great job in Iowa City. Fortunately, she was able to transfer over to keep that job, went to South Bend. Well, she wasn't able to do that. So now, this fall you're sitting there and your wife's trying to find a job that she really likes. You're trying to put your daughter in a new daycare. And then you start to think to yourself, big picture, what is it worth to win tennis matches for me? Like, so I go back to the original point is find a place that's really good for you, that's really good for your family, because there's a lot of them out there, and it's not just in the bigger conferences.
I'm getting fired up. I'm getting sweaty over here. Ross is exactly right. If you, again, I know I work for UTR, but seriously, you can run a 2-day camp every weekend that you don't have matches, and you can make money. You can make something as big as you want. The base salary is the first 10%. From there, go do whatever you want. But Ross, I really appreciate that honesty there. I think a lot of people, especially younger coaches, are going to learn from what you just said. The last thing I'll add on, you're exactly right about the NCAA postseason administrators. I know it's easy to look down on the NIT, but it is an amazing event with UTR. Postseason continues. You get the opportunity to keep competing. Auburn basketball just did it, so why not you, right? We are actively looking for teams right now that fit that caliber, that are maybe just not quite going to make the NCAA tournament. So it's a great event. Ross, good luck this year. We'll definitely be following. I'm making some bold predictions over here with myself. And appreciate your time and your honesty. So thanks again.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for all you do for the game, and I enjoy the podcast every time I listen to it.
Love it. Cheers. See you.
All right, man. Thanks.